Elizabeth Stitt of Joyful Parenting Coaching. A while ago, I did a video and I was reflecting on the nature of forgiveness and the importance that it plays for parents in sort of clearing their own space so that they can really be present for their kids and be empathetic and forgiving of their kids and really recognizing that we all make mistakes. And today, I'm really delighted to introduce a mother-daughter team, Robin and Madison Strempek.
Yeah.
And thank you. We should have practiced that one. And the reason that I invited them was Robin and I have been friends, and I know that she and I have similar philosophies about parenting in a lot of ways. And she piped in and commented on the video sort of specifically talking about her journey and Madison's journey. And Madison is an author and now she looks all grown up, so it's not so hard to believe. But tell me how old you were when you published your book.
I was 10.
You were 10. That's pretty hard to believe. So
Yeah.
I'm going to just hand it over to you guys to tell us, first of all, introduce the book and the title of the book, and then give us the backstory and kind of explain.
Okay. Thank you.
Started.
I'm so glad to be able to speak and talk to you about this topic. I really love it. So I'm going to let Madison just give her a little backstory on why she wrote her book and what it's called and what it's about. So Go ahead, Madison.
So my book's called Everyone Makes Mistakes, Living with My Daddy in Jail. Wrote it when I was 10 years old, over one summer. So my mom told me about my dad going to jail, and obviously I was super devastated about it. And she said to me that she looked for resources to help me to like get through this difficult situation, and she said there was basically nothing. So everything that was out there was like stuff on for the parents on how to like raise the kid, or like books for like super young children, and there was like no nice in between. And my exact words was, "That's stupid." so I just decided, why don't I write about my experiences going through this to help other people.
Yeah. And so that really helped her. I think it's very therapeutic for her. I do remember from my perspective helping her at 10. I remember the day her dad did tell me that he was his girlfriend told me, and I was devastated, and I don't really remember what she said to me. I just remember thinking, how am I going to be in a space for her, because if I don't have a clear mind and stuff like that, it would be really challenging for me, because I'll be dealing with my emotions and not helping her deal with her emotions, which it's her dad. So she has every right in every space,
Yep.
and all the space to be upset or to be happy, or whatever her emotions are, and be supportive. And so I do remember emailing her teachers on a Thursday night saying, your Valentine's Day party, I need Madison to have a really great party on Friday, because on Friday night I have to tell her that her dad's in jail. And the teachers were like, "Oh my gosh!" They were crying. They actually said they had trouble interacting with her that day, because I felt like it was important for teachers to know, me being an educator, it's really helpful for an educator to understand what the child's going through. And it's really hard as an educator if you don't, because you can't really understand why some kids do the behaviors they do. So for me, I thought it was critical to let them know on Friday she's still going to be the same child, and on Monday she's going to be different. And I want to know from the educator who's with her all the time to let me know what she's dealing with. And some people are like, that's embarrassing. I'm like, well, but it's also important for her to have the support at school when I can't be with her. So anyway, she wrote her book. It's been great. I think for me, going through, because the post that you had in the video was about as a parent, being forgiving and empathetic and that kind of stuff, even with yourself. And although she has an amazing story, I feel like I also have one too. Because I had lost 100 pounds in 18 months and I've kept it off since 2011. And
Wow.
that was a lot of, yeah, that was a lot of emotional journey through understanding of a lot of things, right? So
Yeah.
um, clearing that space and the fat, I guess, like clearing and not emotional eating and doing
Yeah.
those different things and just learning how to have a healthy lifestyle to practice as a leader for my daughter. And, she practices those same kinds of things, how to practice resiliency, how to be forgiving of yourself. It's okay if you make mistakes, you get up and try again, figure out a new way to do it. How can I support you be better at it, not criticize her for not doing it well.
Yeah.
And she's a musician, which on a string instrument, a viola. I'm a violinist. That's a pretty intense situation to be in.
Yeah.
Auditions. It's
Yeah.
high skill, high maintenance. It's really like diva world.
Serious business.
There, and then she does martial arts. We both train in martial arts. We both black belts. We compete. Again, that's a very stressful, competitive thing. But in all of that, she's fallen and not won. And I've been there to say, what can you do? You did your best today, right? Yes. When do I say that to you all the time?
Yeah, like every time I go into an audition, I always go in with a mindset expecting not to get in, and if I get in, well, that's great, but I always know that I do my best. I come out of every audition usually with a smile because I just know that I went in there and did my best. Even though in my head I'm always like, "Oh, I know exactly what I did wrong." But I'm always like, I at least tried my best. That's all that matters.
I think it's that whole idea of like a growth mindset and teaching her what that is. And I just had this fear that if I died and she didn't have the skills to be resilient, that she would wander the earth motherless and not know what to do with herself. So I feel like it was important for me to give her the skills to have resiliency, understand how to grow herself from something that's,
Yeah.
you know.
So, Madison, tell me a little bit of what you remember, because writing a book, I've written a book, that's not a small thing.
I know.
And like, did you have the gestalt of it figured out before you started writing, or did you just sort of start writing and see where it took you?
So I think I had like a somewhat of an outline of what I wanted to do, which was like basically just tell my story and just tell people that what they're going through is okay. Um, I guess how it started is I basically just wrote what was on my mind at the time, like how I was feeling, or like yeah, I guess like the structure of the book came later because pretty much it was just I just put down all my thoughts and then we'd sit down together and just be like, okay, we have this stuff, we should section off this way, or like this should all be in a chapter. Like I guess an example of this is like I talk about martial arts and music, so that's all a separate chapter in itself. Or like visiting my dad's a whole chapter. So
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's got in her book, see, at the ends of chapters, it has like self-reflection things, kind of like let's see, doodle space, questions you can ask your parent, um, letters that you might want to, like topics of things you wanted to talk about your parent but you're not willing to write about to them yet, kind of thing. So she just at the end of each chapter she's got these little spaces to help people, well, kids express themselves. So it's nice.
that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So I'm curious because from an adult perspective, I sort of think about like we have our essence, our true self, which we're born with, and then all this gunk starts getting layered on top of us. And so one of the things that I was saying in my video was that I feel like the more gunk we can take off as parents, the more open we are to where the child is, and I think the better chance we have of keeping gunk from building up. So I'm just wondering like what the power of the book was in terms of like how free and easy it feels, or is there still things that kind of have weight and negative weight, or things that still snag you, places where you're still angry or mad or sad or upset about that initial situation?
Well, for me at least, I have zero anger towards my dad, honestly. I mean, first of all, I don't really want to know why he went to prison. That's his business, not mine. So he can keep that to himself. But like when I first found out, I wasn't actually necessarily sad that it happened. It was more just like a disappointment in him. But I've learned to forgive him for it, and that was his mistake. So I still love my dad. He's still my dad.
Yeah. The day that I had to tell her the night, I thought, as a parent, like a billion things go through your head of 1,000 different scenarios. They're going to cry forever. They're never, like what's going to happen. I even had the thought of she's going to be like him and go to jail someday. She's going to fail at school. I mean, and I felt bad. I was like, no. I mean, if that's the voice that I give out into the world, that's what I'm going to manifest for her, right? And absolutely not. She's going to be the most powerful, centered young lady that I can grow and develop. And I got that out of my head. It went in and came right out. But the night I told her, she empowered me there because I thought she was going to cry all night long. I thought I was going to have her in my bed with me. I was going to have all these tissues for her. I was going to get her favorite ice cream. Like, I just thought I was going to have to like just hold her and console her. And she cried because she was upset. It didn't last very long. It was probably seconds. Like,
Wow.
it wasn't even a whole minute. And she takes the breath and she looks at me, and I swear she's got like an old soul in her because she says to me, "Mommy, I'm not mad or upset at my dad. I'm just disappointed that he made a wrong decision and that he made a bad mistake." And to me, that's powerful because a lot of times kids own the parents' like dysfunctions that they have, right? And they wear it. And in that moment, I was like, she'll be fine because she doesn't feel like her dad's mistake is her mistake.
Yes.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yes. Which it is not. You're so right. And I agree. I think it's unusual, Madison, that you just knew that instinctively and that you recognized that right away.
Yeah.
Well, like even though his mistake did impact me, it's still not my mistake to carry.
No, it isn't. And at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if you were sad when it came to, a graduation or a concert that you had invested a lot in. Say it again.
I had my moments where like I wish that he was there for like all my big concerts or whatever I was doing, but
yeah.
That's okay because now he can come to them now, and I'm a lot better of a musician now. And I want to hear these concerts.
Well, that's true, and you have a lifetime of concerts to give, and that's true too. Yeah, exactly.
He's been very thankful that I haven't been sort of a horrible ex-wife that won't give him access to her. I had friends that. And I know I've seen bits and pieces of this through our Facebook feeds, just a sense of it that in different places. I had a friend that came to me that was sitting with me at my desk and complaining about her divorce and, the kids going from here to there to there. And as a punishment to her ex, she was like, I'm not letting them have the kids this weekend. And to me, that's heartbreaking because my daughter's father's in jail. And in order for me to give him the time with her, I have to go and I have to be there. I can't just like drop her off and then walk away.
No.
I have to be at the prison with her. And I also understand that I'm an adult and the situation isn't the best, but I also told that friend, I said, I have a hard time empathizing with you because you're part it's not like they're in an abusive situation where you shouldn't let the kids be with them. Their father loves them and you just are upset with him because he didn't do something you wanted him to that had nothing to do with the kids. I take my daughter to her father on Christmas at a prison. And when I go in, and I don't know if she knows this, but I would always sort of like take a deep breath and say, and breathe out all of the negativity that I might have about him and say, I need to be in a happy place so that she can enjoy, because the energy that I give in the room, she's very perceptive of that. So I have to make sure that I'm careful about what energy I give out. No,
I agree. And, in those cases, it it's not just like, oh, just when they're little, right? I mean, you guys are bound through Madison forever.
Yeah.
And Madison needs to have good and healthy relationships with both of you forever.
Yeah.
And so, that was where I was with my divorce. I both had to forgive him and just recognize that, he wasn't about me. He hadn't set out to hurt me.
Right.
And not being with me, that really wasn't about like, I'm trying to hurt Elizabeth. No, it was like, I am trying to save myself and I need to do that.
Yeah.
And then, given that, I mean, I the guilt that I had to get over was just the complication of like living this dual life and going back and forth and everything else. And once I was able to let that go, what that enabled me to do was both to enjoy in my ex-husband what I can enjoy. I mean, we were married, we had a relationship, we had been friends actually since 9th grade. So, we had a long friendship.
Yeah.
And that means that rather than being upset every time I had to send my daughter, I get to say, yeah, she gets to have a relationship with her dad. She gets to go with her dad. Isn't that wonderful? And
same.
Yeah, it's a source of pride to me that my ex-husband and his wife, I'm actually the what is it called? Designated guardian. Should they both die. So they have a daughter. They have a younger daughter.
That's great. That's a huge compliment to you.
Yeah, I think so because I think it really says how comfortable we all are, and about their daughter. I'm one of her people.
Yeah.
Right. I'm her sister's mom. It's like, obviously I'm one of her people. So
yeah, absolutely. And she's that's a lot of self-reflection and I've had to do a lot of that to understand how to heal that wound in myself, and same with you, to be able to come to the other side of that. And if I could help anybody do that, I would love to be able to do that. It's a good place to be instead of always being angry.
Yeah.
So
Madison, I'm curious, what feedback have you gotten from readers of your book?
Usually everyone says they really liked it. I had a lot of people say they cried, which I think is kind of cool, actually. I don't know, just to know that my book impacted someone enough to cry.
Yeah.
Feel good.
And have you heard from kids whose parents are in jail, sort of at about the age that you experienced it?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's even had some of her teachers read it that never talked about their parent being in prison, and she shared her book with them, and they're like, well, actually my parent or my son or my daughter or something,
some family member.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah
and,
which is crazy.
And I think a lot of my adult friends that have read it, they cry because they're like, her book is so forgiving. Just this pure, like, because you were talking about the layers, that as an adult, the layers.
Yeah.
You read the book and you're like, this comes from a 10-year-old, that there's so much purity that we are born with forgiveness.
Yes, we are.
That, right? And you don't really realize it as you get older because you start to get this crust of layering of bias and judgment and stuff because, you have things happen to you. And she just, in the book, is just pure unconditional love of her father. And I really support her and say, you're allowed to love your dad. Just because he did something bad doesn't mean that you have to hate him. There's no reason for you to, right? And her book speaks that in volumes. And
I think the auxiliary idea to that is that just because he did something bad does not mean he's a bad person.
No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, right? There's a quote in her book that I like. Oh, this last paragraph. Here, she'll read her last paragraph. It's like one of my favorite paragraphs.
Okay.
It's a great closing to the book. It says, I will continue to love my dad and pursue my dreams. His mistakes won't stop me from being who I'm meant to be. I promise not to judge him by his mistakes or by the size of his heart. He has a big heart. Love you, Dad.
Yeah, not to judge you by the size of your mistakes, but by the size of your heart. So
yeah, that's really, really lovely.
That came out of a 10-year-old.
And it's such a good reminder. It's such a good reminder. I mean, I think about, like, when we're talking about growth mindset, I always make the joke that, nobody looks at the baby and says, the baby's struggling and flops on the floor or begins to cry. And nobody looks at the baby and says, no good baby, you're never going to walk. Don't even try walking. You're never going to be a walker, right? How is it that we know with infants to be 100% accepting of, giving up, of failure, of mistakes, of being upset, of being emotional, and we're so 100% behind that baby, cheering, crowding for every moment. And, and then kids begin to get older and we don't extend that same grace.
Nope.
And, and it's such a shame because, like, one of my requirements for clients, I only want to work with people who believe that people can change, and who believe that we can shift how we show up in the world.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to say shift who we are, because I really believe that at our core, we are innocence and light and purity and love and laughter. And so it's not saying we're going to shift who we are, but sometimes we do need to shift how we show up in the world.
Exactly.
And yes, that's like, I don't want to deal with clients who don't believe that. It's like,
I coach teams and like programs with teams of teams, and I'll have to send you an article later, but it's from my graduate studies, but it talks about the different types of people that you have sort of in an organization, but it's the same in regular people, where if you believe that you have the ability to grow, and your mindset is that I can only add to myself, right? That they usually excel and they're very open to be innovative and have these amazing ideas, versus, what you were talking about, like after, that's sort of like the understanding the baby has all this potential, and that I can expand myself, versus the people that are more like not, and they can just do tactical things, and they can give them a checklist of stuff and they do it, but there's no incentive, or they're just not wired yet to be of growth, and they're like, I'm an adult and I've gotten everything that I can possibly have, and this is as much as I have. And I would like to make sure that my daughter understands that she can grow all the way up until she's 80, 90, 100 years old. You can still learn something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's been lovely talking to you, Madison. Is there anything that we haven't said today that you think is important for people to hear about the idea of forgiveness, or being able to make mistakes and move on?
Or any advice to parents?
I don't know.
We did talk about for parents from a child's perspective, that it's helpful to be open and not judgmental when a child comes to them with a problem. We did talk about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when parents judge their kids for something that the kid really can't control, I don't know, it's a little sad.
We did talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Or even when it's something they can control, they just didn't control because we're human. And and sometimes we lose control.
She says, my mom's never yelled at me. Is that true?
Yeah, no, she's never yelled at me. Like, I don't think she's ever raised her voice with me, and if she ever does, I know that I'm in like some really deep trouble.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you much for coming and sharing today. I really appreciate hearing your perspective. Obviously, Robin, I know you as a person, and how fantastic you are as an educator. And Madison, I was guessing that was true based on what I knew about you, but it's really lovely to meet you and to have you come today.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.